the issue of information and knowledge, and there's the issue of governance, and they're interrelated. Obviously, for us, anyone to take decisions, you need to be well informed, or at least we all hope that people who make decisions are well informed, and we want them to be. And this is a bit the kind of line of thought that I'm going to talk about. Part of the images are going to be in Bulgarian because that's my context, and that's how I've been doing the let's say all the graphic design, etc. So I'm part of the Team Sofia. This is also the logo of it. That's what it says there. And we are a group. Actually, I'll tell in a bit who we are. Practically, we are a group of experienced professionals who care about the city. We're presently more than 70 people covering a wide range of professional expertise from urban planning to ecology, mobility, resource management, climate, communication, infrastructure, etc. I tend to stress on the fact that we are a group of experts who are engaged with the city and not simply citizens who care about their environments because of our experience. This is kind of a characteristic that we have. I have led two major processes that are important, I dare say, about Sofia and in general about how cities are governed and planned. One is called Vision Sofia 2050, and it was developed in the course of 3 years between 2017 and 2019. And it was related to the general overall development of the city of Sofia and its environment around it. It wasn't a vision for, let's say, an environmental vision or an economic vision or an architectural vision or anything like sectorial. It was a vision how things work together. And that's where a lot of my first experience contact with water management came from. And the second initiative or institution actually that I led is called Sofia Plan. That's the simpler logo. It still exists, an organization within the municipality which is responsible for the strategic and spatial planning of the city. And actually, me and my team created it in such a form. So obviously, water in the city is what I can talk about, not from the point of view or the expertise that you have, and I very much value what you have been saying, and actually makes me a bit frightened, this antibacterial resistance. But well, I hope we are wise enough to get somewhere from here. When we're talking about water in the city, there are obviously various issues. It's a wide subject. Maybe most people think usually of sewage or a water supply. But also, obviously, there's underground water. For some cities, this is crucial. For some cities, like in Indonesia, it is dangerous. It is a menace even. In cities, you have the issue of surface runoff, which recently, in the last couple of years, in terms of urban planning, in terms of city management, it has been translated to the concept of the city as a sponge. Then you have the whole issue of various types of infrastructure, obviously connected to sewage and water supply, but not only. Then the public health issue, which you have been touching, not only the water, the quality of water that you drink, but also the sewage and what goes into the soil and in the supposedly the cleaned, purified water after the plants that goes into the rivers. The quality of the vegetation, again, that's something that is set apart, but without water, trees don't grow. And trees are important, and not only trees, but bushes, grasses, etc., for the good urban environment. So water is crucial on many levels, not just drinking, but many other aspects of urban life. And from my experience looking at Sofia, but knowing a bit about other cities as well, urban waters are poorly managed. Maybe in the whole course, I mean, if you put the whole picture of what the water cycle, what happens in cities, you would say, well, that's just a small part of the whole story. I'm not sure how small this part is, but I'm sure that affects the biggest part of the population, because at least in Europe, more than 70% of the people live in cities. This is the urban population has an increasing percentage of the work population. So that means that the way we manage waters in cities is increasingly affecting the quality of life of people, but also of plants and animals and soil, and the whole thing of having something longer lasting than just consuming the environment around us. So urban waters are poorly managed. I'll touch a couple of subjects that I have experience with, and maybe I hope they might be informative to you. I'll be happy to receive some questions at the end. For example, in Sofia, and not only, there are a couple of many other cities around the world, there are underground waters, some of which are mineral waters. So they have like warm, healthy waters. In Sofia, we use only 5 of the 40 water sources. There is so much water coming from the ground, and we are so irresponsible that even in this picture, this is the location of the central mineral baths and source. About 2/3 of the water that comes up on the ground just goes directly into the sewage. That's how much we care about it. Then we have physical infrastructure that has been built with time around this mineral water. This is a picture of the central mineral bath. So we have at least 6 such big buildings. Well, not as often as big as those, but buildings, some of them historical. We use only 2 of them. One actually since the last month. For many years, it's been just one. The rest are in such or even worse conditions. So then there is the issue of rivers and creeks. In Sofia, we have more than 250 kilometers of rivers. Well, actually, you could call them rather creeks. They're not rivers as you would see, like I don't know what comparison to make, the Seine in Paris or something like this. But they are still water courses that regulate both the city climate and could maintain greenery, the green system, and in general could provide healthy conditions for living, and obviously use as a water management tool in order to work or regulate the water flow. Well, surprise, surprise, more than 50% of the courses, the locations of where these rivers pass in Sofia are private lands, which is actually illegal. According to law, all water courses should pass, the land around them should be public. This is the result of a very messy process of land restitution in the 90s, where nobody was taking, or like at the end, the result was that the public good or the public interest was put at like less importance. It was important to get land. So this practically means that those spaces, those places, the municipality or the state, in this case the municipality, cannot act. It has firstly to purchase the land or go into court, which is obviously the municipality is not doing. Furthermore, we don't have only quantitative but also qualitative issues of when it comes to talking about rivers in the city. The picture, I suppose, on the left, at least I see it there, is a canal. It's what has been done about 100 years ago as a way to manage water flows, and this is kind of the classical engineering way of working with water courses in cities. You put them in stone or concrete. The picture on the other side is the same river, just a couple of kilometers upstream, where it passes through a park. Well, I mean, I don't have to explain the various qualities that the one on the right has more than the one on the left. Not only this, in terms of quality of environment or biodiversity, but also in terms of water management, the park infrastructure is much more useful than the channel one. And the most extreme example of such an attitude is maybe you were aware of it, the Los Angeles case, where they have practically put into concrete all the city rivers, and this has caused enormous problems in water management and floods, actually, instead of the opposite, which was the intention. Then we have the issue of water supply. Now, we have many issues here. Again, Sofia is in a rather good position compared to other cities, I imagine, especially around the world. Here, at least, the water supply system serves 100% of the population. We have this issue of the part of the network goes through private land. But we have, if we don't act soon, our infrastructure is continuously aging and the water losses are diminishing. I think they've diminished even more than what's shown on the graph here, but they're still present. About 35 to 40% of the water gets lost in the pipes, which means we have to change the pipes. Some of the material of the pipes is also questionable in terms of the health qualities it provides. The water supply also in Sofia comes from mainly one source. It's the Iskar Dam, which provides 80% of the water of the city, and the other one it's upstream. It's called the White Iskar Dam, and it provides about 20% to a certain area of the city. Both of them are served by the same mains, which means that in case of some major calamity, even a technical issue or problem, this huge reservoir of water for Sofia is going to be left, unusable. So we rely too much on one thing. We have all our eggs in one basket, as one may say. So in our work with time, we have mapped these issues because it's not only important to know that 20% of the, let's say, the pipes are made of Eternite. It's important to know where they are and how it is really linked to the rest of the infrastructure, especially in a system like the water system where you have a flow. So it's important to know geographically the distribution of the problems. That same applies to the property issue. We have exactly knowledge where the property problems are. Sewage is something we are less prepared or well kind of achieved less good than a water supply. About 20% of Sofia's population is not served by the centralized sewage system. Which means that people kind of use their own devices, septic tanks most often, but that often results also in illegal discharges, often in the rivers. We have mapped also there is an issue of private again, infrastructure passing to private property here. And here is a map of how, where is the population that is not being served by a centralized sewage system and the percentage of it. The periphery of the city is the one that is almost or totally unserved by such infrastructure. And that's a huge challenge because it's one of the most expensive things to build. As I was saying, Sponge City at the beginning, the issue of surface runoff. So here is again a picture. This is the same river at the same place. The one on the right this time, it's not a collage, it's a real picture. And this is when there has been a storm. It was a summer storm. It's not even the most, rain falls mostly in spring and autumn in Sofia. So with climate change, we have these extreme weather conditions where we have to deal with extreme amounts of water pouring down at once. And the way we deal at the moment with them is in an engineering way, but in a mechanical engineering way. Actually, we have unused potential. Almost all the rivers that I picture here pass through parks. And in some parks, there has even been such infrastructure of digging, it's not holes, but like basins that could be used as retainers upstream of the water, but unfortunately they're not used. They're just left there they're more like marshes now. This is rainwater accumulating there, not water from the rivers that is being redirected in order to manage it better. And then we come again to my whole point, the issue of water management. My impression and my experience from this point of view of city governance and the way that the city of Sofia, and from my partial knowledge, other cities do with it, is too fragmented, not related into one system, not thinking of the whole thing as connected vessels that work together. In the case of Bulgaria, in Sofia in general, we have a number of institutions that regulate waters, and communication between them is hard, if not scarce, if not non-existent. Often they prefer to place the blame instead of solve the problem. The whole issue of water management has become more of a bureaucratic issue instead of things on the ground, and people in institutions tend to focus on the papers and the dates of entry dates of a complaint or a letter, instead of making sure that the problem is solved on time and in a good way. So there's this issue of responsibility and responsibility management and cooperation between institutions is very at a very low level in Sofia, at least. And this is something that with the work we do now with Team Sofia, we are trying to address it and trying to put it at the center of local policy making and also local politics. We have this ambitious goal of pushing political parties into coming together around consensus on certain issues that needs to be solved in the city, and water is one of those issues because it affects all of our well-being and even safety in many places. This is our website. It's all in Bulgarian now, but I believe Google Translate does a good job, and at some point we're going to have an English translation as well. But as I said, Google does a good job at the moment. So I stop sharing now, and I hope this was informative and interesting to you, and I'll be very glad to hear any questions from your side.
I have a question probably, Ljubo. In LinkedIn, you positioned yourself as a system creator. So what kind of system do we need in Sofia as a small model, but on a general perspective in the world, to integrate all interests and keep the water, our utmost important utility, clean and safe?
I think that maybe it's due to my work. As I've worked a lot with geographic data, territorial data, and with local communities. And I see that people understand things better if they're related to the territory, the area they inhabit. So that leads me to the conclusion that if the local authorities are could be the leading factor in creating the connection points between different institutions. Obviously, not everything depends on a municipality. Obviously, the water system, it doesn't acknowledge administrative boundaries. It just goes through. But if the municipality of Sofia or the one of Samokov upstream or something like this, if they feel responsible about the environment and not just fulfilling their administrative obligations, I think this could be a leading way of bringing together the various institutions. And the way to make these local authorities responsible is to make them much more interactive with citizens and professionals in order to have, you can call it pressure, but also cooperation from the outside world, because it's, some people can take it as is a sign of unnecessary nuances and complaints from locals. But on the same side, you can have locals as your ears and eyes of the conditions of things, and also ideas and also resources of coping with problems. So local authorities for me are the key for better water management.
Good. Actually, I have also had in mind various regulations and directives from the European Union, which are implementing strict rules. Some of them are mandatory, some of them can be implemented with a higher degree of vigilance. But anyway, what you said is very important, that besides the general legal framework, there should be more knowledge among every stakeholder who is involved in the water management and use, because once again, this is our utmost important utility, and without water we are done. Anyway, thank you from my end. I would be happy to hear also other questions if there are any.
Let me step on Dimitar's question, and nice to see you here, Ljubo. For the audience, I would say that I am one of the experts in Ljubo's team, Team Sofia, and quite a few of these water-related topics we discuss on a daily basis. Ljubo, as you gave a wide overview of water-related topics, I would like to link what the previous panel discussed. I mean, more specifically, some of the people like Marco and Ivan is also here from the National Center for Infectious Diseases, the laboratory there. I'm getting the impression that at the monitoring level, and Ivan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we more or less know some of the risks, some of the concentration of both antimicrobials and resistant bacteria in environmental waters. Now, what is happening then at the policy and implementation level is probably a different story. What I understand also, and later today in our panels, we have deeper discussions on that, is that two of the most important places where measures can be taken is at the outlet of wastewater treatment plants and at the outlet of hospitals. Now, I know that some regulations are in the making. I know there is a lot of policy-oriented research, but it will take years, if not decades, to implement them. But long story short, Ljubo, from your participation in strategic city planning, both on behalf of the municipality and now in Team Sofia, do you see the strategic risk of antimicrobial resistance as part of the city level risks? Question number one. And question number two, I will use a term from Wendy in our previous discussion. Do you believe that Sofia municipality is decision ready to implement decisions for controlling antimicrobial use, disinfection, and other treatment approaches? Let me stop here. After Ljubo or before Ljubo, I would appreciate a short input from Ivan as well. Thank you both.
I'll try to answer. So of course, the city government should be concerned with microbial resistance, because I mean, this is the highest. Cities are usually the place where diseases spread more easily because of the concentration of people. You know, I don't have to explain to you the historical facts. So cities are the place where you have to strive for the highest possible hygiene in all senses. So we should be have a policy and an attitude towards these issues. Again, it might not be, maybe relating a bit to Dimitar's comment, some things are not prescribed in regulations, maybe because they're coming yet. You know, even if you talk about the change of climate or issues of inclusivity or other things, but cities are not limited only to the things that are explicitly said and in the law or something. They could take initiative as long as it's not against the law, obviously. So a city can take an initiative to talk to hospitals and to talk to the purification plant management, etc., to address this issue. It's not doing it because it's not realizing this is an issue. And that comes to, I go to your second question. It very much the readiness of a city governments to address such issues is directly related to two things: the people who govern and the availability of a system of governance. And I think both things in Sofia are at a very low level at the moment. Even if you have a very nice and kind of enlightened team of governors, you need to have a system, a management system to address any issue, be it this one with water management or anything else. So this is a challenge for Sofia, and I hope that we can contribute to solving it, because without a system and without a process, a management of process, we will never get anywhere.
Thank you, Ljubo. I think the conclusion of your thing is that your speech and your response now is that an issue as broad as antimicrobial resistance at both water and public health level requires a systematic response. I mean, no matter how general that may sound, this is as complicated as that.
True, totally, yes. A responsible, systematic response.
Yeah. Thanks, Ljubo. I will give the opportunity for a quick conclusion from Ivan. If you want to say something, Ivan?
Of course. It's indeed the multidisciplinary approach to the problem is a key factor here, and Europe and the world actually 10 years ago provide the concept of One Health approach, which maybe you are familiar with, encompass both human medicine, veterinary medicine, and the environmental experts. So in Bulgaria, we are currently trying to finalize the national action plan on antimicrobial resistance, which encompass also experts from these three, at least three disciplines, and there are really good experts in the Ministry of Environment that are participating in these activities, and I'm really hopeful to this action plan, national action plan, to start at the beginning of the next year. And maybe because there are plant updates in it, and the environmental aspect is becoming really a more and more important one, we could indeed implement some more activities in that matter in this action plan, and to really start a national initiative on the monitoring antimicrobial resistance in the wastewater and environmental and municipal waters also. So this is just a suggestion that could go further.
Thank you, Ivan. It was a kind of interesting to bring the global perspective down to a single city of 1.5 million people. And it was good to have both Ljubo and you here to reflect on both on the monitoring and the policy side. With that, let me thank you, Ljubo, for joining the event.
Thank you very much as well. I won't be able to participate much longer. I have another appointment. I'm sorry, it might seem unrespectful, but I just cannot move things around with. But it's been informative to me what I've heard until now. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining, and I hope some of the ideas and directions are topics that you and we can implement in future municipal level policy initiatives and even wider. Thanks again.